because I mean, I know when you've made a kind of first season or something and it's been kind of really well responded by kind of audiences, is it when you're kind of awaiting the kind of scripts for the second season, are you quite nervous or excited to see where they're going to take your character, because it's so kind of out of your hands in many ways?
Yeah, I'm the biggest fan of the show. Honestly, I love the story. I love working with Simon Burke. We got to know each other well. I mean, in a way that he writes scenes that are suited for me, and he's having fun with me, and I'm having fun with him. I mean, it's also, he's challenging me. He does some things on purpose, or you know, he calls me and said, "What do you think if this happens? What would be Livia's reaction? Would it be, you know, it's really like straightforward." But I've never been working like this, because I have never done such a long TV series. So obviously the connection, the commitment, relationships that are around long project like this, you know, are different. It's been years now for it. My adventure with Domina started in 2019. So wow, thinking of it right now, it's been, you know, the kids are growing, and also us with you know, we're aging with this show. So it's like a family that is coming back, you know.
Yeah, I was going to ask, when you come back on a second season, is there more of a kind of, obviously there's a familiarity and already like now built up friendships you've got with cast and kind of crew. Does it create more of a kind of a swagger, a kind of confidence around the place when you've all kind of, and also that knowledge that you know the audiences have responded to the first series?
Oh, absolutely. And I felt much more confident of, you know, of what would be the final look of the whole show. Obviously, when you shoot in studios Cinecittà, I mean, the set design is massive. It's really incredible. And shooting the show in Cinecittà in Rome, Asian Rome, in Rome, it is really something. But you, once is the you know, you, I mean, the experience that I have on set, and the other thing is what you see on screen. So I think that the post-production, the everything that actors don't participate, it's great. It's so it just brought my personal experience I had on set on a different level. So this time when I came back and I stepped on set, I knew that all these details and all this smoke and the candles, and that it looks really realistic, that this is not only my experience. So it was completely different. I really honestly, I tell you, I really enjoy every moment on set. Obviously, sets are such long projects, are very difficult, right? You get to the point that you're really tired and you can't wait to go back home, and that's everyday life, and it happens always. But there's some projects, special projects, that really bring you to the other dimension somehow, and Domina is one of them.
You mentioned about being on set. I mean, with historical dramas like this, they always look like such great fun. I mean, the costumes and the sets, obviously transporting not just the viewer, but the actors as well, back to a kind of a period in history. Does it feel a bit like being in a sort of theme park? You know, and does it kind of enforce that kind of idea of this job being a really playful kind of vocation, and remind you why you got into it in the first place?
Oh, absolutely. I tell you what, I love working like this, and there was several moments I really that I took it for myself, realizing, why am I doing it? Actually, moments like, I don't know, going back from set, walking you know, dressed in ancient Rome during the night in Cinecittà. Just crazy, crazy. You pass through ancient Rome, then you enter to the New York of the beginning of the century. Then you pass through some Middle Ages sets, and then but you dress like ancient Roman, and you have other Romans, you know, walking around, people with the cigarette, because obviously they dress like this, but they need to have a smoke, right? So it's it's bizarre. It's magic, and it gives sense to all of this. So yes, I mean, it's a very strange experience for me, so different than all the other projects I did.
I always find it funny when you're on set and you go into like the canteen and you have like Romans having lunch, and then over there's some kind of
Fun.
Vikings.
Oh no, we also came through all the unfortunate COVID period, right? So we had Romans with masks, we had Romans with sneakers, we have Romans with plastic chairs walking around, we have Romans with headphones. So they're on set, but they go like, you know, it's fantastic.
Even though we know quite a lot about the Romans, you know, and obviously the story of Julius Caesar and stuff like that, but actually this specific story, Livia's story, is actually, it feels untold. I mean, I just wondered if, because the story feels quite untold, does that take away some pressure from you? Does it allow you to find your own way into the character without kind of pre-established audience expectation?
Yes, obviously you're much more free. There was not so many in books or I mean, when we did the research about Livia, there was really little things. But I live in Rome. I'm not from Rome, but I live in Rome, and there's still places called you know, Livia's caves, a restaurant, Drusilla, Livia's, you know, street, and then it's just names. Rome is full of names that when you start to places, you know, when you start to study and getting more into the Roman period, you realize where that is actually those names, the story of these people, and but there was not really a lot about Livia, and I felt a kind of a responsibility to give, you know, when you start from zero, from scratch, and you have to bring the story of a person, then, you know, you find yourself or in two positions. One is when you have a lot of informations, maybe footages, video footages, anything about how the character is moving, how he's talking, how is this and that. But here we had nothing. Some statues, right? 2,000 years old. Hard to say how was her nose, actually, but rather than this, nothing. So in the end, we decided to, you know, to feel free with the material. Obviously, also the language is modern, right? So you know, trying to give the sense that it's a story that the audience can actually feel, you know, closer. It means that you need to build characters that are modern in a way.
I mean, Livia is such a great character. I mean, she's so complex and so nuanced, and also she's quite flawed as well, which is obviously so important. I mean, I just wondered if there's anything, now you've played her a kind of number of times across, as you said, since 2019, is there anything you've kind of learned from her, and sort of having, and sort of anything that maybe has rubbed off on you as Kasia?
Well, I learned that I like to have fun on set, and I learn a respect for what I'm doing. Really, yeah, like you need to allow you to have a respect for what you're doing. It takes time sometimes, you know, and I mean, I learned how much strength we have as women, and especially when we connect our forces as women, and maybe it's not that I learned, is that I had time to, you know, to think it through, really, like, and so that was that was quite important for me. Yes, not only as a, as an interpreter, as an actress, but as a just regular person.
Yeah, I mean, there's a line I think where they say the character says you ought to pay more attention to women, and I was just thinking about, do you think the success of the first series of Domino could help pave the way for more untold stories of powerful women across history and bring it to our screens?
Well, I really hope so. Thinking of how many stories were told about ancient Rome and how little we know about women. It seems that we know half of the story, only knowing just the story, through the men's point of view. But let's think about another great feminine character that most of the people know just because of the movie, Cleopatra. There was so little about her, and then they did a movie, right, in the 50s or so. And this image, how I grew up with this movie. Like, for me, Cleopatra was the greatest female character as a little girl growing up. And I remember Liz Taylor entering Rome fully dressed in gold. I was different times, but still, it was one of the greatest female character, and most of the world got to know her story because of one movie. So what we do makes difference, can make difference, and I think honestly, in the story of a whole ancient Rome, Livia Drusilla character was missing. Most of the stories of our imagination about that period, it's full of red and gold and fighters and gladiators and wars, and it's sexy, it's tragic, but it was not, the life was not only about that. So I'm happy that someone actually wanted to tell this story, and I'm happy I kind of got to be a part of it.
Yeah, it's great because you were saying about watching Cleopatra and sort of think what Elizabeth Taylor was to young girls seeing that story and learning about Cleopatra. You are now that to the next generation who are watching the story of Livia. So that's quite cool. But I mean, I've only got time really for one more question. So I was really just going to ask about the future of the series, about whether there will be more. I mean, there's so much more scope for this character. Are you hoping to expand on her story for a number of years to come?
I really do hope. Livia lived more than 80 years, and there's so many things happen. Her story, her children's story. I mean, we have Tiberius as one of the greatest emperor of Rome, and we followed his story through the story of Livia from the very beginning here, and knowing what he went through and why did all this happen. You might feel much more connected with someone that has today the image of one of the worst emperor of the story, of the human story. So I really hope that we can go on, because even though I know the story, I can know the story about the main historical characters we have in the show, but there's some great other stories that it's worth to have a go and to follow. So I really hope it will happen. Yes.
Although if you do have to play her up until her 80s, you'd have to spend a lot of time in the makeup table as they do.
I'm fine because I'm getting already white hair, so it will be great,
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for speaking to me today. It's been a real pleasure, and best of luck with the release of the second series. And hopefully we'll catch up again in the future for series 3 and 4 and more. Who knows?
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys!
Hey, you guys!
Hey you guys!
Hey, that's what they all say.
Hey you guys!
Hey, you guys!